Hey friends, do you know what a boundary is? Usually we think about a boundary as a perimeter that will set up rules for keeping people out, let's say in our lives with relationships. I'm going to set rules for what's acceptable to me and you're going to abide by them or there's going to be some distance. That is generally an okay way to start with boundaries, and it starts this process of respecting yourself and being accountable. But ultimately, I want you to take a look more deeply that a boundary has nothing to do with the other person. What I want you to do is take a look at boundaries as setting up, recognizing what's important to you, because ultimately you have to know who you are. And so a boundary says, I am no longer going to accept a certain type of behavior because I'm going to honor myself. And what you want to do is get into a place where you start to honor the vessel of your body. And your body is not just a physical form, it's an energetic shape. And so it's this massive energy that consciousness is experiencing life through in a seemingly physical world. And generally what other people do is they will reflect back the areas where we haven't developed boundaries or a sense of self. And this goes to all childhood trauma and our programming and all of that stuff. And so in the process of growing up, let's say you had narcissistic parents, you generally haven't developed your own sense of self. And all sorts of there could be other reasons as well, not just narcissistic parents. But generally the idea is that if you haven't grown up with this properly healthy, individuated sense of self, you've got holes in your ship. Your body, your energetic body has holes in it. And that's where all of these other people come in. And they'll just do what they do, feeding off of your energy. And so what it looks like for setting boundaries is not getting the other person to agree to my rules. They don't care about your rules. They're going to be who they are, regardless of what you say, and it'll just cause friction. So what you do is you have to go inside yourself and shore up your own sense of self. And this is a really good exercise because it helps you to get in touch with your innate sense of who you are, not dependent on validation of the other person, which is generally what we need, is the other person to be validating to us. We get some sort of feedback that's familiar, and that generally comes back to our old wounds that we haven't shored up yet. So when the other person's pushing on you and they're encroaching on your sense of self, you go inside yourself, you find out where these holes are, what these people are taking from you, and you make an agreement to yourself that your inner commitment to yourself is to honor your vessel. Your body, your divine body, your sense of you is a divine vehicle. And when you start to honor that, you don't actually need to get the agreement with the other person. What you'll find is that those people that would constantly encroach on your boundaries, they start to go away. I tell you from my own experience, I had a heavily narcissistic relationship with a covert narcissist several years ago. And this person really pushed all my buttons. And it was a highly traumatic relationship, but it was also in the phase when I had been in for years of healing and transformation. And what I did was I sat, meditated on this. I started to realize that I wasn't honoring my vessel, and it became obvious how this was. And when I stood in my kitchen one evening and I went through a process of visualizing closing up these holes, I just went through, and I'm a builder by trade. And so I went through and I took in my mind, the holes in my vessel, which is a ship in the ocean, of which we all are on the same ocean. Some people like to go and steal my fuel or your fuel or something. And I had this realization that if they're going to come on and board my vessel, they need to come on through the main entry. There's rules and regulations for my vessel. And if they don't follow those, just like you would on a cruise ship, is you get kicked off. You get sent home. You get the honor and the privilege of going back to your own vessel and the responsibility of learning to steer your own ship. So by not honoring mine, I'm not doing anybody any favors, just the same as you. If you're not honoring your vessel, you're not actually helping the other people in the long run. You're not giving them the chance to learn how to steer their own ship. And on this idea of continuation, that we actually live forever, this appearance of birth and death isn't reality. And so in the span of eternity, you do nobody any favors by not honoring your own vessel, by not setting the boundaries, recognizing the boundaries of your own vessel, and then making an inner commitment to protect that and to set the rules, to steer the course, to maintain, to learn the controls. First, you have to learn the controls of your vessel. Most of us just got tossed around the seas, and there's a way to come in and recognize the vessel and learn how to direct it, learn how to navigate through the storms and stay afloat. And maybe even have a good cruise. Maybe you have a pleasurable cruise, even in the midst of chaos. So these people that are encroaching on your boundaries are only showing you where you've got a gap, where you've got a hole, where you've got energy leaking out. And when you meditate on it and you go inside, you can shore up that hole, and it does not take agreement of the other person. When you do this properly, the other person will either change their behavior automatically without the conversation, or they'll go away. And all of a sudden, you'll realize that a lot of your relationships weren't actually relationships. They were a feeding frenzy. So think about that. Some feedback. I've seen some videos recently about boundaries, and they are talking about setting boundaries with the other person and getting agreements. And I totally wholeheartedly believe that to be an ineffective way. It might temporarily create a little bit of peace or a seeming possibility that things are going to work out. But in the long run, you got to shore up your own defenses, or you shore up your own walls. And that's an internal energetic alignment with finding out who you are and maybe beginning for the first time the process of individuation as a spiritual being. All right, thanks. Let me know what you think. Take care.